Hey there. So my next guest, absolutely wonderful guy, had a blast with him. Actually, probably had more fun after the interview was over than I did during it. But like, I really enjoyed this. He really kind of dives into what he does, which is voiceover work, and he goes through the process of how to get into this industry. So if this is something that interests you, I really recommend checking this one out. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Jared Breshers. Hey there, Jared. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you? I'm excited to be here, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas over here. How about yourself?
It's a nice day in Georgia. And here, if you don't like the weather, wait another 5 minutes and it'll change.
So, and then it'll start raining.
Exactly. You don't know whether to have your snow boots or your parka or your umbrella. It's insane here.
Absolutely. Okay, so Jared, I start the show just by getting right into it. So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, I'm a father of three. Been married 17 years. I started initially doing construction throughout my days and then led myself into voiceovers. That's what I do. I guess it's not really about me, but I do music production, comedy, writing. There's not a whole lot I don't do. I try to multiple forms of revenue, which is just, I'm a creative at all points. If I'm not doing something creative, then I'm not usually that happy. But I've found, I don't know, it's just being creative is the most important thing to me, and that's what I've done throughout to get to me to where I'm at. I know that doesn't explain a whole lot, but
well, that's fantastic. We'll go into it, and I'm sure I'll ask you about all kinds of different avenues here. Before I do, now that we got that out of the way, I start every interview with a single question. So I'm going to ask you, just like I ask everybody else, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you?
47.
Why is that?
I'm up there. I guess more eccentric than that, because I could switch from listening to some Swedish death metal to Yanni or classical. It's just depending on what mood. I like things. I like people. I like different. I like taste. I like spices to me. So the more the merrier, the better. The more I can experience, the better, I would say, I guess.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I lived in Ohio for 9 years, and for 9 years, I didn't have a good meal.
Oh, my God. No, I cook.
It's steak and hamburgers, and that's about it.
I do 90% of the cooking in our home because I'm usually work from home doing the voiceover, so I get to cook. So that makes me really happy, to be honest with you. So.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I could, I moved to Las Vegas. I'm like, food, glorious food.
They have grocery stores? No.
All right. Okay. So, Jared, this is the Gamerpreneur. So I need your gaming cred. When did you first start playing video games?
As soon as my parents bought them, which I was going to say, I think I'm the first generation to be born and going to die with video games in their lives. I was born in the late 70s, 78. So that just means there was Atari and ColecoVision back when everything was coming out. We never had one of the PCs because at that point they were too expensive. But I remember Atari was our first, and then ColecoVision, and then of course Nintendo. So but I've got to experience video games the entire evolution, which has been really, really cool in my mind.
Okay. And you're currently still playing. What do you play?
Oh, God, yeah. Right now, well, I got suckered back into a card game that I played a while ago, which was Magic. I run a Mac for all my recording, but I haven't been able to play it. I've got all these useless cards you can't use in store, and with social distancing and everything, you can't go anywhere anyway. So was playing that. Before that, League of Legends. I'm a huge League of Legends fan. Call of Duty sometimes. My daughter and kids love Minecraft, Smash Brothers. We have every system, so we pretty much stay up. My son loves the fighting games. I'm okay with them sometimes. We put on Soul Calibur, and he didn't really figure that one out too quick, so I got him on that one. That was fun.
And button mashing does not work on Soul Calibur.
No, not at all. My wife was seriously into games for a minute. She was when we were playing WoW together. She actually ran with the #1 guild, and I was a Ret Paladin at the time, and they wouldn't even let me run with them.
Nice.
They were like, "We don't need another button masher." I was like, "Oh."
Pretty much. Horde or Alliance?
Right? Alliance. We
Thank
started
you.
Horde
I
and
think you
went
might be the
Alliance.
first person I've talked to with Alliance.
No, justice for all, baby.
I love it.
I can jump off anywhere and pop the bubble. Whee!
That's right. All right. So kind of my last gaming question, then I really want to get into like the entrepreneurial side of what you do. But desert island scenario, I give you one game for the rest of your life, power cable, Ethernet cord. What game is it?
Man. Wow. Man, that's a really good question. Like, it would have to be an open world to where I could build and experience as much and in life as I could digitally. Now, whether it be sci-fi or like, do you go might and magic type or do you go futuristic fantasy star? Oh my gosh, like which road do you take there? Man. You know what? Grand Theft Auto 5 for right now, because that seems to be pretty cozy.
There you go. And with the Ethernet cable, you got mods out the wazoo, right?
Right. That'd be awesome. Who doesn't want to fly a bike up into the air?
Absolutely. Okay, so you kind of like threw a bunch at me at the beginning here. So you do voiceover work, you do some music, you do what do you do? Like what are you focusing on?
Right now, I focus on voiceover. Very rarely do I do any construction work anymore. I still take care of the people that I've taken care of for years because I had done it for so long. Plus, sometimes the money is just too good. I am right now focusing on what type of podcast to put out because I love podcasting. I listen to a bunch of them. And so this really, really was like, perked my ears up. That content creation is huge. I do a men's product, beauty product called Pharmacy, where I help sell that. Me and my wife do, I believe it's a kitchen, upgraded kitchen stuff. We do multiple forms of revenue that sometimes we work together. She also works in real estate. So we've got our hands in everything we can get our hands into.
Fantastic.
But I focus mostly, yeah.
With kids, how do you handle that? I got one and like...
My son is 16. Our oldest daughter is out of the house, so that's not too bad. Oldest son's 16. He pretty much takes care of himself as long as we have peanut butter in the house. And then my daughter, she's great too. She is 11, 12. She just had a birthday. I want to say 12. She is 12. And she also does the voiceovers. So that's something we can connect on. And we also do a lot of music in the house. So that's something we try to connect on too. I know I'm doing a good job putting music together. If I see somebody dancing through the living room on the other side of it's pretty awesome.
I love it. Okay, let's start with the voiceovers. How did you even get into that?
Man, it was about 5 years ago. Like I said, I was kind of getting tired of using my back to make money constantly, and I knew it wasn't realistic for the rest of my life. So I wanted to use my other talents, and I'd always done stand-up comedy, and like I've done a lot of stage stuff. Not a lot of stage stuff, but some stage stuff. And that's kind of where I'm always on. So I wanted to figure out how to use my voice. And, people will tell you throughout, oh, you have such a pretty voice. You should use your voice. And every time I do something, people are like, that doesn't sound like you. I'm like, well, that's the whole point. But 5 years ago, I looked up information, found out one of the biggest conferences, which is VO Atlanta, is actually in Atlanta every single year in March, which March is around my, a good time for me. So that's what we go do every March. We go down there as a family. That's like our little mini vacation every year.
Okay. And so you went to this convention and your eyes opened. You're like, this is the coolest thing in the world. This is what I'm going to do.
People that you would never think would stop and talk to you, like Mark Grau from Blizzard Entertainment or from Mark Grau Studios, who does a lot of the orcs and goblins and just way more than that. Just stopped and sat there and talked to me. Just so many people that you think are untouchable are just normal people. And it was just so heartwarming to know that it's a very close-knit group, and they kind of brush away the fakes real quick, or the people who are there just to make quick money, because it's not a quick money business at all. It's just like anything else. You're going to have to put time and effort into it, and it's not just talking into a mic. So, but there's where I got my start, and I felt like family, and people just kind of help you take the steps up. You have to find the right group to surround yourself with. We call them champions in the voiceover industry. and I found my champion there, and she kind of like took me by the hands and was like, let's do this, this, and this, and let's get you here. And it's awesome. It's a great place to be involved in if you can get in.
Beautiful. Okay, so part of the purpose of the show is not just to spotlight my guest, but also kind of show people another path. Maybe there's someone out there who's doing that manual labor that you were doing, and they hear your episode like, why don't I give it a shot? How do they get started? Where do you get started doing voiceover work?
Man, a lot of people will say it's a demo, and a demo, you do need a demo, but you need coaching and you need to find the right resources, because there's a lot of people out there who will take your money, and like voiceover demos are not cheap. The ones that are well produced start at like anywhere from $800 to $1,200 per demo. And some people have a demo for each different category, like audiobook narrating would be a demo. Video games would be another demo. So there's people out there who spends thousands and thousands and thousands on their demos. Another thing is now, because of COVID, people are having to do home studios. I'm lucky enough to have built my own home studio through doing construction and everything. I've just transferred over those skills. But there's things you can do, and you can start certain places. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to go to Fiverr. Fiverr, everybody who is a real professional voiceover artist frowns upon that service, because there's a lot of pay-to-play sites that you should avoid that just take your money, and if they're charging you a premium to give you an audition, and they're sending the same audition to 4,000 other people. Right. I mean, they're making their money. Don't make your business model somebody else's business model in voiceovers, which I've heard a lot of. So it's a lot of getting out there, trying to get agents, really crafting your talent and working hard and learning the nuances of the business and finding the right people. And there's groups. And if you find the right people and the right connections, then you can start to build to build your, client list.
Okay. Can you walk me through it? So how do I do this? Like, how would I become a voiceover? Not necessarily to get business, but how do I actually do the job?
The job. Okay. Say I would get up, get an email for an audition. The audition would be, I would say like Nestle Crunch. I didn't know it was Nestle Crunch at the time. I got a small audition that said, hey, I need you to say these few lines. If you would please just send me raw audio. So I'll go and either put it up on my screen, and say I have a screen that folds into my studio from the outside, so I don't have to take tablets or anything. Any kind of buzz is bad on the inside. So I'll take it in there, read the copy, a couple different times, come back out and send them this raw audio. And if they like the tone and how you portray what they're asking you, they'll have you back, or they'll hire you for the job. And either they'll send you an NDA, seeing if it's top secret or not, or, when the product's going to come out. And then you have to go through the entire process of how much it's going to cost, how many years are you going to use my voice. It's kind of like they rent you for a certain amount of time. Like I did a Nestle Crunch commercial, and that one went on for 2 years. And Ferrero owns Nestle Crunch now, from what I understand. So all the recording I had to do was done. They recorded me from Italy, from my booth here in Georgia. So I had to be up at 9, 10 o'clock, and it's 4 o'clock over there. It's pretty neat, but it's just the way things work out. So it can start very small. It's just some random person, not even an agent, reaching out, hearing your voice, saying, hey, can you just give me a few lines? And it could lead to something as huge as that, because I had no idea that's what that job was. Now, that's the largest commercial job to date that I've had, but that's really funny how that one came about.
Certainly. Okay. So what makes you unique? We'll talk about you for a second. What unique skills or abilities do you have? Like, is it like voice modulation? Is it control? Like what's different about you as opposed to everybody else out there trying this?
I believe, I do a lot of different voices and a lot of different voice inflections. I can also sing in character voices. A lot of imitations, but what's funny is they're not really looking for imitations anymore. A lot of new voices are bad imitations of existing voices, if that makes sense. Okay. Like, to find a new voice, you want to try to do, Hank Hill or somebody like that from a show, but you can't do it. So it ends up sounding completely different and ridiculous, but that one guy might like that, and that's perfect for that character. So a lot of times just being you and putting you into it will kind of bring it to a different level. And if they like it, they like it. They'll tell you, bring it back. I hope that kind of answered the question.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. So pretty much what you do is you just make up voices and then put them out there and see what sticks.
You read, no, you read, you need to find your niche. Voiceovers is a huge niche, and people don't understand how big voiceovers is. There's e-learning, there is every commercial you hear, every radio, so you can get hired just from Pandora to do their commercials. So there's the voiceovers is everywhere you go. On train, someone did a voice for that train to tell you what stop is next. So voiceovers is every single place. I like to stick with the commercial side. I don't do audio narrative, like long narration. Video games, that's a lot of fun. It stresses out your vocal cords a lot. Animation is a lot of fun. They do a little bit of it here in Georgia, but most of it's done, on the West Coast.
Okay.
So.
Okay. On the music side, what got you into that?
Man, I started playing upright concert bass when I was in the 6th grade. I started becoming part of the orchestra.
That's a big instrument for a 6th grader.
Right, which was horrible because we had I think it was an old beat up like Monte Carlo, and we could barely get it home, but you had to take the instrument home some weekends. But that's where I started. And then I believe a year or two after that, my mom bought me a electric 4-string bass, and played that for a while. And then fell in love with singing and guitar. I've sang my entire life now. I've got a few songs that are released. I just released a new song, was it last month, called Losing Ground. So that one's it's been pretty neat. It's been pretty neat to bring an idea to fruition and then hear it, and then with help and with other producers be able to bring it out, and it's out there like forever.
Absolutely.
You leave a piece of you. So that's what's cool for me to do it, honestly.
Okay. So I actually worked on the board of a record label before, so I kind of understand how this goes a bit. But would you be willing to kind of explain the process of how music is made?
Oh, man. Well, it's funny because it could be out of nowhere. And sometimes people do it certain ways. Like some people are very strict the way they write music. First, I write the music and the tones and the beat, and then I go get the melodies, and then I write the lyrics. It's different for me every time. I guess there's a semi-structure to it to when you get to the recording process. But as far as like the writing process, it could be just a phrase. Like, I get by, and you could just keep repeating that. Hooks get stuck in your head, and then you sit on the piano and you'll hammer out that one little melody, and you go and you put that in the computer, and okay, well, I need this. And the place I can drag different sounds and loops and everything. So I just get ridiculously creative. Sometimes I'll have 36 sounds and be like, okay, well, easy. That's way too much. But then you start to dissect it, and I pinpoint what's the best. And I like to use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Because the majority of people, they just want to feel good, or they want to reminisce about a memory, something like that. So I always use the KISS method, but that's how I build it. Usually it can go either way for me, but I usually start with lyrics, something I've said, something I'm humming. Because I'm a singer, I guess that's where it comes from too, because I can always sit down and hammer it on the piano or the bass or the guitar until I hear the note in my head. So that's the way I personally do it.
I'm right there with you.
On a DAW, man.
Right there with you. All the artists I've worked with, they start with the beat first, and I'm like, but I got this like great hook. Like, what can I write around this?
The song I released last month was built around the hook. I think I started writing 8 months before I started working on it with anybody else, and it was only the hook. And we were almost done with the song before somebody goes, "Hey, it doesn't have any verses, man." And we're like, oh, yeah, we should do that. We should write the verses. So it's pretty funny.
Okay. So, Jared, I'm assuming you make money doing all of this.
I do.
Is it decent money? How exactly do you make your money?
Multiple streams of revenue. Well, some things are going to go good for you some months, and some things are going to go bad. I mean, that's the nature of all business. And I'm not at the point with any one of my business as a singularity piece to just fall upon that. So I do the consulting, the image consulting with the pharmacy brand. I do the I think it's a Pampered Chef thing. I do all these different brand placements, doing content for them, which also always leads to other avenues. Somebody always goes, hey, I saw your video here, or hey, I saw you doing this, or I heard you do this. I try to get everything I do to coincide. I try to bring up what I do every time I talk to somebody, whether it's on social media or not. And so I'm always advertising. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always advertising one way or another.
Beautiful. I love hearing that.
But and it's, people don't understand. They're like, oh, they talk about scripts and this, that, and the other. Everything we do is to get to a certain point. So no, I'm not going to talk to you like it's scripted. But if I'm passionate about a product and I really believe in it, it's going to be, I don't have to be scripted. I can just literally give you the way I feel about what I've done and how I've done it. And if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, you're like, oh, that guy's a jackwad. That's cool too. Self-education is key, especially in business and owning businesses. And I really think it's multiple forms of revenue, because maybe one hits and maybe I can leave the other ones alone. But you know what? It also gives me something to do. And who doesn't need a little bit more to do right now?
That's absolutely true. Okay. So this is usually the part of the show, and I would ask you to go back in time with me, but I'm not sure how far back to go back, because you've been a musician, it sounds like your entire life, and you've been doing the voiceover for 5 years. So how far back do you want to go with me? It's childhood or just for 5 years?
Wherever you want to go, we can go.
Okay, we'll go back 5 years. And if you can go back 5 years and you could talk to little Jared, 5 years ago.
Oh, he was another 20 pounds lighter, everyone.
You could say, hey, Jared, this is everything that's going to happen to you for the next 5 years. It's an incredible journey. But here's the one thing you need to know to make everything just 10 times better. What do you say? Stressing
out will never help the situation. Letting your energies go negative will never find a solution. And it won't find a healthy solution, even if you do find a solution. Me being Irish, I've let my anger get the best of me sometimes, and that's never ended up well. It might have been satisfying, but it's never ended up the best.
Okay.
So not letting your energy stray, and really self-care. You get that. You kind of get to your lows by not looking at yourself. So when you're investing all your time, energy, and all these things, remember that there's a certain part of you that needs for you to take care of yourself. So if it's 10 minutes of this music or a bubble bath or a certain, whatever it is for you, make sure you take that itty bitty little time to recharge your battery before your battery gets so low that you're done. Okay. And you want to quit.
I'm 100% full agreement with you here, but I'd like your opinion on, what happens when someone's just nose diving down that direction. It's one of those days, things are going bad. How do you pull it out?
You know what? Mine's usually music. There's always, there's so many times I've been on the edge with so many different decisions, and maybe that one song come on and that little riff, or Bobby McFerrin will come on and tell me, don't worry to be happy, or, everybody walk the dinosaur, something that takes my brain away from what's going on. Especially 80s music does it for me, because that's my childhood. So a lot of times 80s music will take my brain off of what it's focused on, because I get intensely focused on something too, and that can be dangerous. So if you're heading down that path and you're going to crash, and come on, we all know we're going to crash, try to hit the brakes, or try to use the few things that that help you feel better. It may not work, but at least it'll make the crash a little softer.
Beautiful.
And when you do crash, you're going to wallow for a minute, but how much time do you really have to waste? You're not promised anything, nothing.
Absolutely. So, that's a giant perspective point right there. You have to have something you're working for.
Dude, if you're not kicking your own butt, it's kind of like the movie Fight Club. It's one of my favorite. There's no one who can mess with you better than you can, period.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we don't talk about that. Okay. So you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, it sounds like.
Oh yeah.
There are plenty of people,
construction business.
Plenty of people out there who've never been exposed to it. Like maybe they come across this show, and my show is like the first time they get the opportunity to hear that there's another possibility other than the 9 to 5. What advice would you have for somebody who's starting that leap into entrepreneurship?
Get ready to starve. I mean, be willing to starve. Be willing to starve for that little while. Be willing to sacrifice and know what you're going to sacrifice. Don't go into it without a plan, because emotions, man, emotions are fantastic. They're fantastic fuel. But you know what? Emotions without plans is disastrous. So even if it's a small goal or a daily goal or a weekly goal, any kind of goal, just don't go into it just, oh my God, me and Becky are going to start a soap company. We're going to do it tomorrow. It's not going to work. Did you talk about Becky about how we're going to market or what we're going to spend or what we're going to wrap these things in? How are we going to get it to our customers? What's our overhead? What does it cost to get one customer? What is our retention? What are you talking about? Exactly. You and Becky need to chill out.
I love it.
I mean, it is what it is. It's straight facts. You have to have a plan. People who don't have a plan have already planned to lose.
It's so true. I do 3 interviews a week and 2 solo podcasts. I end every single solo podcast with a catchphrase I have, which is organization is the enemy of sloth. You have to be organized. You have to have a plan. Otherwise, you're gonna go down that negative path, really, because it happens really quick. Once things start piling up, you start getting overwhelmed. I don't know what to do because there's too much to do.
It's hard for me as a creative because half of me is sloth and half of me is OCD. But it's really funny about what I'm OCD about. There could be I could leave an empty water bottle right there in the corner for like a week and be like, it's an empty water bottle. You know, who cares? And then somebody else walk in, like my brother, for say, you got to move that, man. The feng shui is off. You know, people are different. Your environment is different, but make sure your environment is for you. Make sure you can function in your environment. That's huge. If you don't feel comfortable in your environment, then you're not going to get anything done.
Okay. So Jared, I'd like to humble you for a moment if I can.
Please do.
Okay. See, I believe that we learn the most from our failures in life, especially as entrepreneurs. Like that's where we get experience. Like related to video games, we get experience that way. So I want to know, what is your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
Man, biggest failure. Biggest failure. I think my biggest failure through life, if we're being completely honest, is the battle that I've had with weight loss that I continue to lose at, that I just can't get past and get around, if we're talking about that, if we're being completely honest. Biggest business failure, if that's what we're talking about, would have to be a construction business. I owned a renovation business. We're doing really, really well. And it was just, I fell out of love with it and didn't want to do it and let just money drop through my hands. And not that too many people were depending on me, but there were other people involved that, you know, they didn't want to take the reins and they didn't want to push it to be ahead of it. But I'm totally out of love with the construction thing at that time. So I just kind of let it all fade away. So I guess from a business standpoint, that would have been my biggest failure, knowing that I had something and just not caring enough because I was not in love with the notion of being that person for the rest of my life. I guess that would be my biggest business failure.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. On the weight loss, I'll say it's change your words. Stop trying to lose weight because guess what? We try to find what we lose.
Correct.
So if you instead try to release it,
it's
or
your
let
habits. Oh, I like that. Release. Girl, we gonna get together. Release the weight. Hey,
that's
release the weight.
Hey, all weight is just a bunch of carbon and water.
Right.
So
I'm like a front end camel. I'm waiting for, like, you know, I'm quarantined here. I might be here for months. Who knows?
Okay, Jared, what are you working to improve on in yourself? Repetition. I got a big milestone. Actually, today is really funny because it's the 15th day I've not had a cigarette. And I've Congratulations.
been for 25 years. So that's huge for me. I'm trying to really focus on my health and trying to get more healthy. So that's my huge battle right now, is wanting to be here as long as possible. Sorry, I had like a burp thing. I was like,
Oh, good. Okay, Jared, this has been absolutely fantastic. How do people find you? Where are they on social media, or how do they contact you?
Jared Breshers, of course. I'm the only one. It's easy to find me. voicesofjared@gmail.com is where you can reach me for voiceover stuff. You can reach me for anything. If you want music production, work on your audio, writing scripts, I do everything under the sun with entertainment pretty much. But that's where they can find me if they want to. I don't think I'm going to give out my phone number for text message. No. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. All right. So Jared, as we wrap this up, is there anything left that you think we still need to talk about, or I didn't ask, you think we still need to cover?
Honestly, man, I think this was a really good interview, and I've been looking up some of your stuff before I'd come on. I was interested in it, and I just think you're doing a really good job, and I like what you're doing. You're putting the business and kind of something I love near and dear, which is video games together, which is super cool. So no, man, if there's anything you ever need from me, like if you get if you ever get bad audio or anything like that, just send me the file. I've got these things I can run it through real quick. So if you ever need anything from me, just let me know. I'm usually in the lab anyway.
If you could help me figure out how to set up my Adobe Audition, like that would be I love the whole push one button and it does everything for me thing.
I have this program called Isotope RX7, and it will take every bug out of it. I have Isotope, I have Adobe, I have Audacity, and GarageBand, and Logic Pro X. So I go through all these different DAWs. But I know the master of Adobe Audition for sure. He would be a great guest too, but we'll talk about that through email. Absolutely.
All right. Jared Breshers, thank you so much for coming on. We genuinely appreciate it.
I had such a great time with everybody. Until next time, toodaloos.
Thank you. And for everybody else, I'll remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.
You go be the gamerpreneur now.